Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very special edition of the Gigi Report. Today we are live here at the Apostolic House at the studios, and we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation indeed. I have some two wonderful guests with me, and today we are going to have a very exciting conversation. This is the unusual, it's not like the usual show so you're welcome to join us, to participate, to send us text. We will be able to respond to them because we are actually right here live at the studio. So let's first of all begin by sharing the links. Those of you that are already live on with you, here you are, there you go. And this also goes to, Vincent.
We are already engaged in sharing.
Yes.
And liking. So this is quite encouraging.
Yes, so great. So this is the Gigi Report. And as usual, we dive into big, bold, in a very big and bold way into conversations that are relevant, that are real, that are present. Right now, we want to deal with a very, very important subject. We are calling it the state of the nation. And this is a conversation that we're going to kind of review and give a commentary on the recent speech of the president, the elected and inaugurated president, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. He gave a very, very wonderful speech on Tuesday, and he gave his economic blueprint. And I have two gentlemen here who I want to engage in a conversation. We're going to explore that, especially the economic conversation. We will not go through everything, but just the economic conversation. And I want to give these guys a chance to comment, and then we get the conversation underway. So join us, share, and please comment. We have our numbers here, the number on the screen, 0719 666655. You can send us a text, question, comment, and we'll read it, plus on the social media platforms. All right, so gentlemen,
yes,
welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to have you. Let me begin by, on my far right is Vincent Kimosop.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. Policy and governance expert, consultant, and a commentator actually on the political matters, economics. So welcome to the show today.
I appreciate, sir.
Absolutely. And on my near right here is Dr. Abraham Rugo. He's a finance expert, but I also think that he contributes in the economic debate. Abraham is the country manager for International Budget Partnership, an organization that actually looks at budgeting, public, nations, countries' budgets and all that. And you're part of a network, a big network of experts advising governments on issues to do with the budget.
Correct.
And so I think you guys are the right guys to be to have a conversation with, because we, as a country, as you know very well, we've gone through, all kinds of shifting and economic scenarios. And right now we have a very, very serious conversation underway because the new president actually did announce, he gave his blueprint approach. He touched on a few specific issues, especially on matters economics. So our role here is going to give a commentary, and I'm going to give you, each of you, like 5 minutes to give your own commentary. So I guess we can start with you, Vincent. Give a commentary on what was your highlight in terms of the things that the president, spoke into, and then we also do the same thing from Dr. Rugo's side. And then after that, we can have a back and forth and look at each of the agendas. And maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel, or there's no light, something like that. And a lot of things have already begun to be implemented. So there we are. So please send us your comments. If you want to ask these guys any questions, then get conversation going. Great.
I think I will begin by saying, do I limit myself to the economics? Because there also, there are other things outside economics that the president, I am still acquainting myself.
You're free to comment on those.
Yes, so I segment the president's speech or accession speech into 3 areas.
Okay.
The number one thing are the things dealing with the issue at the moment, which is economics.
Okay.
I have said this in the past, and allow me to repeat this because we were discussing elections, so I can quote myself, that every election normally has a major organizing question or a dominant issue where conversations are shaped around.
Okay.
In the 2022 elections, the clear organizing question was the issue of economics. If we had to really say it in a language that our people can understand, chakula kwa meza na pesa mfukoni. I am using those 2 words because Swahili is our national language. I know this is the Gigi report. I don't know what the Gigi report is called in Swahili.
Chakula kwa meza, pesa mkononi.
Yes, or even closer home, bei ya unga.
Yes.
In 2017, the organizing question was the electoral process.
Okay.
2013, it was the ICC. 207, 42 against 1.
Okay.
2007, 202, it was about the whole issue of yote yawezekana.
Okay.
Anything but Kanu.
Okay.
So I'm giving that because that brings me very fast to the speech of the president on the issue at hand, which is the issue of cost of living. So where do I therefore isolate? So cost of living, I think for me the issue at, let me segment into 3 and then speak to each one of them within my 5 minutes. So the issues at hand, so the elephant in the room, so that is the economics. Then the other thing that you see in the speech of the president is the issue of governance.
Okay.
Governance, you're looking at the issue of independence of the institution. That's why he spoke about the judiciary, he spoke about the National Police Service, he spoke about the need to actually ensure that separation of, that's a governance agenda. Then the third thing that you see in the speech of the president is the whole issue of a regional engagement, closely foreign policy. That speaks to the way where he requested the former president to continue chairing the regional Nairobi process and that the AAC related issues. So that's why I classify the speech of the president is accession speech.
Okay.
The final thing which I don't see a lot of focus, but it's also, I can add into a fourth, are the legacy hinting dimension of his administration. So that for me is how I would group his speech into. Being faithful to why we were invited today, the number one issue was on economics. On economics, he touches about the issue of subsidies. For us to rethink really, are subsidies working? Is it better we rethink through it? That's why he put it out clearly that the current subsidy program, and you can see even the direct impact of the lifting of the same, has led to an increased prices of fuel. He also talked about the issue of the supply side. Which now talks about production, the issue of fertilizer subsidy, the issue of supporting our farmers, and even giving the prominence all the way to political and policy level. You're looking at the creation of a ministry responsible for cooperatives and SMEs. So that is at the policy thrust, but you can see clearly it is a business stroke, a production related agenda, that your issues will be sorted out at this level. Then finally, on the issue of economics, he talked about the issue of taxation. Here you're looking at the tax morale, you're looking at how the fiscal authorities like Kere go out about their businesses, pointing out that let us shift from a supervisory, almost militant approach to a facilitatory engagement, that no business will be closed because there are issues of taxes. Let us come up with a modality. All that relates to an economic agenda. I'm more than happy to go into the specifics, the merits and the pluses, but I hope in that 3 or 2 minutes, I've been able to summarize the speech and also point the issues on matters economics.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much, Vincent. I think that's a very, very well articulated summary of what came out of the president's speech, and we have already seen that he's already begun to act on it. So that's very nice. So, Dr. Rugo, we come to you. Perhaps you could also give us your own version of what you think he spoke into.
Yeah, I listened to the president, and I think I've had the benefit of also looking at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, because what he did on Tuesday was really to try and pick the quick wins of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto and start engaging it. So there are two aspects one expected him to speak to. One is what will be done to ensure that the role of government is more efficient within the economy.
Okay.
Because what has happened is that because government is the largest spender, or has emerged to be one of the largest spenders in the economy, whether you think about subsidies, whether you think about even the tax breaks government gives, whether you think about the facilitation, the control of credit, competing in the credit market. And where that is important is because by government not being efficient, because it's a key player in the economy.
Yes.
When government is not efficient, especially because it's either the bureaucracy of it, but mostly corruption, then things start going south. The second one was what will be done to actually alleviate the cost of living and manage it in the immediate.
Yes.
What did I hear him say? I mean, that's what I said I would expect. So what I heard him say is the fact that we want a government that ensures that people have a key role, are the center of this. But without saying, while saying he will reduce on subsidies, he almost was basically saying that the government is going to play a greater role in the economy.
Yes, yes.
Why do I say a greater role in the economy? Because when, for instance, you say that you are going to do away with subsidies, is a good thing. But when you say that fertilizer that costs 6,500 will cost 3,500, that's a subsidy in itself.
Yes.
Because there are 3,000 shillings there that
Yes.
somebody has to meet.
Yes.
And I was just working out, for instance, the 1.4 million bags of fertilizer that are supposed to be available.
Yeah.
If you work out the maths, it comes to 4.2 billion.
Okay.
Kenya shillings.
Oh, yeah. So in one stroke, he committed 4.
So 4.2 billion is about half what you have now saved by not subsidizing petrol.
Okay.
So that's one. But the second thing around that is also the fact that there wasn't quite an acknowledgement that things are thick.
Okay.
In fact, the only person who almost got there was the deputy president.
Yes.
But the president didn't say people. Where we are saying that we are going to remove the subsidies and all these things are difficult.
Okay.
The reason why things are difficult is just because of how much the government is either bedeviled by the levels of corruption and and pilferage of public resources, and two, the amount of money that is being spent on debt and obligation and an obligatory kind of expenditure.
Yes, yes, yes.
When we met with him during the campaigns, under a campaign on Okoa Uchumi, we did raise the numbers to him, and basically, since I was the one presenting, we said, look here, you're already going to start on a negative, because out of about 2.1 trillion that you expect to collect in tax revenue this year, you're going to spend about 1.5 on 1.5 trillion of that. You are left with about 600 million for running everything
billion,
else. Billion.
Yeah.
So the role of government is critical.
Yes.
But then when you come to the other side, which is everybody wanted to hear what will happen to me as a Kenyan.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
There are two things that he spoke to that are very important. That one, we will facilitate you to be able to engage in productive activity.
Okay.
perhaps there is to say that, of course, not everybody is an entrepreneur, so the Hustlers Fund will not benefit everybody.
Yes.
And therefore, you need to deal with other things that cost households so much. Healthcare, whether you think about what he talked about, the reforming of NHIF, the cost of food, which is critical, and of course we expect to hear more in the future. The cost of housing, which definitely came out.
Yes.
But the last one is what to do with when you talk about. He talked about increasing the tax base. Well, technically, what that means is that people who have not been paying taxes will start paying taxes.
Okay.
And need to start paying taxes because the options are only two: either borrow more or tax more.
Okay.
And tax more does not necessarily mean raise the amount of taxes. It perhaps means raise the number of people. In fact, his speech talks about increasing the tax base, not increasing the amount. So those are the things I heard him talk about, especially those two very conflicting. What do you do at household level to facilitate private equity, private economy, private engagement, so that people then are able to participate in the economy? But also, what do you do with the role of government that is riddled? An interesting piece, just to finish, is I ran through his speech and the word corruption appears twice.
Okay.
The elephant in the house. And it appears under the role of the judiciary and under the role of the police.
Yes.
Those are the two sections that the word corruption.
Yes.
Yet corruption, if you ask me, is perhaps the biggest challenge to both of the first things, both the role of government and achievement of households in terms of participation in the economy.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Wonderful.
I don't know. Let me. I like this the two-sided approach. That's sorry, I've taken over moderating.
No, jump in, so that then you comment, reinforce because you are listening like I was.
Yeah, I think I wanted to respond to something that that he alluded to, as to give the reasons why.
Yes.
Where he did not speak very clearly about, hey people, even before you hear what I have in my bag, please be aware of the context in which we are in.
Yes.
Remember the president, and again, please, I am on the journey of transition, really appreciating the reality that our former deputy president is now our president.
Okay.
He has been deputy president for 9 years.
Okay.
So politically, my brother, let me now jump into, I know we are in economics, but you cannot talk about economics without addressing the politics. It is natural. Because the truth of the matter is that you have when you're promising hope, and the person who is promising hope has been partly part of the past administration, it becomes a challenge politically if you're writing a speech.
Okay.
Since you guys, you have run for political post, you know what I am pointing out, Abraham.
Yes.
That you therefore have to, move the gradient or the horizon.
Yes.
So that then progressively, I suspect therefore politically it was strategic to have the deputy president be able to be the one paint that, so that then he then goes to the hope.
But the precedence we have set is such that it's a president who carries the cross. I mean, if you listen to that speech carefully in the discussion, the deputy president went for the former administration. I find it funny that former administration would exclude the president, yet he was the deputy president.
No, that's what I'm saying. It is more politics.
So right now, the president starts carrying the full burden, and therefore that's what I was saying. That part of the hope giving perhaps is an aspect of honesty.
Yes.
Because we don't, for one, I don't imagine a situation where it's a gimmick and a game of words.
Yes.
I honestly want to choose to believe that everything the president has said is what he wants to do.
Yes.
Because we want him to succeed. Because when he succeeds, Kenyans succeed.
Absolutely.
Actually, I don't know who said this is. I don't know the name, but I want to give attribution that it is foolish to pray for the failure of your president, irrespective of where you supported him or not.
Okay.
So one of the things that I am even telling my friends, those who voted irrespective of whatever rights, which is their democratic right, that hey, Kenya has one president. And President William Ruto succeeds, Kenya succeeds. And I think since we are even we are on Elevate TV, where the motto of this TV is advancing the kingdom lifestyle. I think the kingdom lifestyle is the word of God, whereby it says that pray for the prosperity of Babylon.
Okay.
When Babylon prospers, what happens? You will also prosper. So if William Ruto's administration prospers, I know at an individual level, I will also prosper. So as we speak to the people, we will speak the truth, we will speak it firmly, honestly, but the spirit behind it will be the one of hope giving and inspiring hope, and hope with responsibility, because it is wrong for us, particularly and to whom much has been entrusted,
yes,
to use the knowledge we have to actually advance hopelessness in a time whereby the greater thing that is needed in our country at this point is to speak this country up.
Okay, okay. So, very good. So, I'm going to ask you to speak to a little bit more specific issues within the economic, especially some of the issues that were raised, and not in any particular order, but I think one of the things, of course, the subsidy is a big issue. And I know a lot of viewers that are viewing, one of the things they are going to raise if they haven't sent the text yet. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, as you follow this conversation, please, we want to know if you have any questions, and please send your text to that number on the screen. We have the text here, the number here we're going to be able to read. If you send in your comment on the social media platforms, we'll be able to interact with that. So let's deal with each issue one at a time, and we start with the issue of subsidy. I know we've mentioned it. Now, what is going to be the impact of the subsidy? Of course, one of the things you and me, Dr. Rugo and myself can confirm is that there is a lot of traffic right now in the city center of Nairobi. It's cost us a delay in starting this show. So mafuta imenda juu, but people haven't kept their cars back. They are still on the road. So what is the impact? What exactly, how is this going to shape out in terms of, is it going to provide a relief? In which direction will this move? Okay, so.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
So when we discuss subsidy, in economic theory and in economic conversations, when you start getting into subsidies, there are two ways that you can intervene in an economy. You can intervene on the supply side, or you can intervene on the demand side.
Okay.
The best practices is you make interventions on one side.
Okay.
I'll give an example. You have the EPRA, that is the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that monthly tells us how much fuel should cost. That's more like price control, really, because you are regulating the market. But the government also has national oil, which is fully owned, where they are supplying the fuel on the same side. So you find that's a policy where you have the government playing on the supply side and the government playing also on the demand side. So when it comes to this issue of subsidy, it's the appreciation that the market forces, if left the way they are at the moment, is that the price that you will have on products will actually be hurting or will be unaffordable. That's why you subsidize by giving a chunk or taking away certain costs that would have been taken care of by the consumer. That is what a subsidy does. Now, the challenge with subsidies, Gigi, is that it's a clear confirmation that the forces of the markets are not playing their role and providing the prices that they are. A very good example is the price of milk. So tomorrow morning, if you have good competition, everybody playing, If I don't want to take Brookside, I can take KCC. If I don't want KCC, I can go for Fresher. That is what happens in a good normal market. This one for the price of the fuel, it is. I welcome the conversation by the president that can we rethink the issue of subsidy, because its sustainability of it is problematic. So for me, I would love to have the honest conversation and see that that conversation is followed to implementation.
Okay.
The other thing I also want to add, if you would allow me, is that the immediate impact of the government now removing the subsidy is the pressure we feel on the pump from 149 to
159.
179. That's a 20 shilling hike for those who are using petrol.
Yeah.
The direct impact of that is, one, when you touch fuel, you touch the transportation sector. The following day, I don't know if I just want to speak the ordinary language. Your fare goes up. And
yes.
you know, with that, you're hitting directly on the on disposable income. So if your income is not going up, assuming you're going to the same place using a matatu, if you're earning 10,000, more of that 10,000 will now go towards what? Paying your transport. The other thing that you do is the transportation cost for food. So this has a ripple effect on many sectors, on food, on education, because there are students who are being transported to school. So my take is the earlier we have this robust conversation on subsidies, the better, because it is really, if there is no clear action, the farthest it should go, it should not go beyond 3 months.
Okay.
Because it's becoming painful.
Okay. Your thoughts on subsidy?
Yeah, I mean, they're the same, and I will not want to repeat, but I think it's important for us to say two things. One, the challenge with subsidy is that you cannot subsidize part of the population and not subsidize another part of the population.
Okay.
Because you are basically involved in ensuring that certain goods that are universal are available to everybody within the economy. And it assumes that everybody is at the same level of incapacitation to afford.
Yes.
Which is not true. You know,
yes.
Not all of us are at the same level of incapacitation, and therefore, you know, we may want to rethink, because there are households that are vulnerable, and for that, then you can make provisions of how they can be able to afford these goods, and particularly if we address incomes, because incomes is the biggest challenge right now that we are facing.
Okay.
You know, if you address incomes. And when you address incomes, basically you also address public revenue, because then it's from the incomes that people have that then people are able to participate within the economy. Then you are able to you know, to deal with but there's another side of subsidies that is very interesting, and that is the common word that has come. Basically, almost the opaque nature in which they are run. Who benefits from those subsidies? The corruption that seems to be around, because the amounts we have spent on subsidies is not small. You know, the president spoke about 160 billion,
yes.
You know, that we have already put in.
Yeah, in 6 months.
In 6 months. Remember, this is money from the public budget.
Yes.
So because when we talk about subsidy, it almost assumed that government is getting some money from somewhere. Government has no money. The money is the taxes we pay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, gentlemen, as we talk about subsidies, one of the things I've been thinking is that it is a very serious, you know, people are comparing it to taking some tablets or an injection, that somehow we were going to have to face the pain of the subsidies being knocked out, especially in a critical supply chain, I mean a critical product like fuel. Meaning that, okay, so the government has unpaid leave in terms of having to bring in the cash. And then the government can now, the government can re-strategize. Okay, so they have already mentioned that they're going to go into the subsidy of fertilizers and stuff like that. So this is a long conversation, but we got to take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having a very interesting conversation today. We are talking about the state of the nation. We are reviewing the president's speech on Tuesday, and basically, I would like you to participate with us and tell us what you think. What you think is going to happen, and because of this, the steps and the decisions that the present government, the current president has made, and the implications. So this is a conversation you don't want to miss. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'd like to refer to your comments, your questions, and allow you to participate. And please, please, please join us and let's hear what you have to say. So let's take a short break. We're coming back shortly.
Apostle David and Pastor Asunda Juma of Life Church International invite you to the Assembly 2022, which is a joint family service for the Life Church International congregations, affiliate ministries, and open to all those hungry for a move of God from the body of Christ. The Assembly 2022 will be held on 18th September 2022 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Kenyatta International Conference Center, KICC, Savo Room. Ministering will be Apostle David Juma.
There is a generation that is rising up. That generation shall do exploits.
And Bishop Titus Masika.
Not allow Africa to remain a third world. We have all the resources.
This service will be streaming live on Life Church International's Facebook and YouTube pages and live on Elevate TV. Come and fellowship with us.
Good marketing makes the company look smart. Great marketing makes the customer feel smart. Are you looking for a place to advertise your upcoming conference, church meeting, or ladies' meeting? Look no further. Elevate TV is offering you a chance to advertise from as low as 5,000 Kenyan shillings. Talk to us today. Call us on 0705
Welcome back. This is the GG Report. This is a special edition. We are live here at the Apostolic House and at the very studios of Elevate TV, and we are having a very interesting conversation. We're talking about the state of the nation, looking at the president's speech on Tuesday, and especially on the matters he spoke to in terms of the economics of this nation. We know that there has been a long-standing conversation. Kenyans, from all walks of life, indulging in the conversation of the fact that we are broke as a country, prices are high, the price of unga in particular. We were expecting that the unga prices will go down even further, but so far, as you know, it's still out there. So, gentlemen,
Yeah.
I think, so we before we went to the break, we addressed ourselves to the issue of subsidies.
Yeah.
It is an ongoing conversation because a decision was taken. I think the government, there was a feeling that the government was clearly overburdened in terms of having to fork out so much cash. And so they passed the back to us. We pay the pump price. We let the system run as it should. But then the government then decided it's going to indulge in the production side of things, agriculture, and promise some subsidy on fertilizer. That has been done in the past, so we can even park it on the side. Let's speak to the other issues that I think that in terms of governance, There was, the president actually did speak on issues of healthcare. He actually mentioned that the NHIF, the health insurance program is going to be refined a little bit more. So maybe one of you can speak into that. Food prices, I think he said he was going to address himself to that in full. And then the housing, okay? Made a very, very huge promise in terms of the housing and the intervention that is needed, pledging that his government is going to commit itself to the production of 250,000 units per year. A very, very, very huge, ambitious target. So, maybe we can, again, you can choose whatever issues you want to speak to. And remember what, actually our aim here is to bring clarity and also question. So because Kenyans have very high expectations. So one of the things, maybe perhaps my concern is, you know, you will hear, if something goes wrong, there is going to be a major fallout and a major, you know, political upheaval, and we all want peace. But you see, the reality will come home. So I don't know, Vincent, what you want to speak into first.
I'll take up the UHC, the health issue.
Okay, so speak to the health issue.
I'll speak to the health. I'll also speak partly to the housing.
Okay.
Let me speak to those two, and then my colleague.
And then we can have Dr. Rugo speak to the issue of maybe food prices. Food prices, and then we can then go to the issue of governance. Okay.
Please start with food.
Yeah. Thanks. I think so the food issue has got different angles, and a lot of things have been attempted in different ways. But let's first of all deal with the question about the fact that in this country, we have serious boom and busts.
Yes.
During the boom harvests, we have a lot of food in different parts of the country.
Okay.
But we also have busts. In terms of, you know, after that, then because of challenges with post-harvest management, non-purchasing of, for instance, maize when it is available, you know, by NCPB and all that. But there is also another side of it, which seems to be almost an obsession, a very strong preference for imports, you know. So our imports of food has actually more than doubled in the last couple of years. You know, just from about, we were spending about 1.2 billion dollars on buying food. Now we are at 3. You know, so in terms of that, so there's that almost obsession of importing things that we produce: maize, beans, sugar, and all that.
And especially from our neighbors, actually.
Yes, and from our neighbors. So right now, Tanzania and Uganda, which shares almost the same climatic condition, have maize and have you know, basically have maize, and they are now even rationing. So there's that side which has been, you know, how do we deal with the times that when we have good harvest? But I also appreciate that this season has found us at a time when you have almost 2 catastrophes after each other. One was, you know, the failed rain seasons, and just before that, whatever had grown, you remember the locusts, you know, had their share of that. So there's that side of it. But the second side of it is for the farmers who produce, who supports them. Because what has happened in countries where they have become food secure is that they support large-scale production of food. They also encourage subsistence for, you know, for households, but large-scale production, that government meets the cost of that large-scale production, so that it does not become the burden of the farmer, you know, to produce and to lose, you know, if nothing works out. So if we are going to deal with the food crisis that we find ourselves in, we will have to deal to address both sides of it. First of all, we are going to have to address with the production costs and how do we support farmers to do large scale, and when that large scale production happens, to absorb it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's maize, it's beans, it's milk, and we need to look at it in its entirety.
I think one of the things I like about what you've said is the boom and bust. And some of the students who are listening to us who are economic students are familiar with the cycles.
Yeah.
You know, the economic cycles, and I mean, these are real, very well-established principles, the booms. And you're saying that there are times in this country when we have so much food.
In different parts of the country.
Actually,
Exactly.
Actually, point of information. In Parliament, point of information allows me to feed into what my colleague is contributing. If you look at our agriculture, our agriculture is a transport problem.
Yes.
Our agriculture is
Storage.
the transport, which by extension then storage. You will find people don't have food in Marsabit and Garissa and other parts, while farmers in Kinangop are feeding their cabbages to cows.
To cows, yes.
So, and if you actually, if therefore, it means if we sort out, if you want to invest in agriculture, invest in the transport. If you facilitate transport.
Yeah.
If we can just establish a good mechanism that facilitates information and effective transport, you will actually sort out a lot of our food challenges by creating a market for somebody else here and by and facilitating the transportation. The other thing that also I see in the agricultural sector is the whole issue of standards. We're helping our farmers to realize that if I am to sell my cabbage at Carrefour, you know, the supermarket, and Naivas together with
Quickmart and the others.
Those ones, what standards is required? Because what happens with time is that as we continue strengthening our supply chains and value chains, then comes the issue of standard. There are farmers who cannot sell their eggs in Carrefour today because they are not aware of standards. That even the way you keep that chicken, the same thing to honey and all that.
Yes.
And I remember we were having a discussion with a friend of mine that there is a merchant, somebody in Paris who is selling salt. Chumvi, as in just, you know,
salt.
I have come to appreciate, to me, let's talk a language that people can relate. But you realize that that person who is selling salt in France or Paris sells salt that comes from Agadi, sea salt from maybe from the sea, because salt comes from different places and they speak to different things. So a chef from different hotels who has a menu, who knows that I need this kind of salt from this place. I'm sure you've never, all the times you've gone to the shop to buy salt, you just pick the one and then you go. But now the issue of standards helps the farmers to migrate from competing on price to competing on quality, location, so that because the price of the salt from Agadi, the sea salt, and all this is differentiated.
Absolutely.
So if we can begin then facilitating our farmers and our producers not only to compete on price but also now compete on quality, so that cabbage from Kinango, based on even soil quality and all that, has a higher price. Maybe okay. Let me
let's not go into the details of it.
Yes. Am I
You're communicating, Vincent, and I think I like that. So what we are basically saying, if I were to summarize what I'm hearing you gentlemen saying, is that there is a lot of room for improvement in our food value chain.
Correct.
If we put our act together and we focus on the main things, we can eliminate the need to import food and spend lots of money on that. Okay, absolutely.
In fact, I just, the other thing I wish we had longer time, because you know when you've been reflecting and talking, we've been talking about these things for a long time.
Yes.
Just look at the issue of food sovereignty.
Yes.
I remember AMS was, I was served as my chairman in an institution. I was serving in the executive. And there's a time we were doing a reflection based on the story of Joseph in the Bible. Actually, it was the meditation during the morning session.
Yeah.
And you know the story of that story that leads to then the revelation that gets a wise man, the storage and everything.
Yeah.
Out of that revelation, you have a foreign policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy, as in just out of that revelation. But I remember it was actually Kinyanjui who was sharing the devotion that morning, the current Secretary General of NCCK, and he told us something, that food insecurity is worse than terrorism. If people don't have food, they can sell themselves. What I'm trying to point out is that it's very important for the current administration to prioritize what you call food sovereignty.
Absolutely.
So that,
okay. Point made, Vincent. I truly appreciate that, and I think we are speaking very, very boldly to these issues. So, food sovereignty is even more important than solving even
as in food security, because when people are secure, it is important. By the way, why do you think people protest at times when you even have strikes? I'll tell you. One of the reasons why some of these African countries you don't hear a lot of protests is that some of them you can get into the forest and you can get a banana, you can eat water. The challenge we have in our country is that we have a highly monetarized economy, that when things are not working in one area, the impact, the ripple effect, the level of integration is high.
Okay. Yeah, so let's not go into that too much because I know it's a complex subject. I want us to come back to another issue that somehow I didn't hear much about, the issue of public debt.
Yeah. So the manifesto, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, which His Excellency is now responsible for delivering, because that's what he was elected on the basis of, talks quite a bit about public debt. Now, the issue of public debt, I think, is important for us to appreciate that there are different angles, there are different aspects of it. The first one is the accountability question of where did this money go?
Okay.
Because here you are saying that you have, you earn 100 shillings, and then I've come and given you 100 shillings more.
Yes.
So you have 200 bob. Now, that's technically, a very huge increase in your income. So there are only two things that can happen.
Yeah.
One, either you completely go self-indulgent and you spoil yourself, like there's no tomorrow, or you do something that will be a great benefit in the future, in the sense of investment. So when we have put in the last couple of years about 8 trillion, because by the time the Jubilee administration came in, we were just at about 2 trillion in terms of debt. We are now at nearly 10 if you add plus the pending bills and everything else.
Yes.
So there's the accountability question of where has the money gone? And I think that is a question that will not run away from the president's desk.
Absolutely.
Because the reason why that is important is because our constitution requires that any borrowing is both the benefits and the burden is shared by the current and future generations.
Okay.
So take an example. By returning the operations to the port of Mombasa, SGR has had its thing, but remember we took a debt to build SGR. We still have to pay it. So the question is, will we be enjoying the benefits? Will the future generations enjoy the benefit? I'll just use that as an example. But remember, SGR is just not even 500 billion. And we're talking of 8 trillion. You're talking of another 7 times of other things that have been done. So that's the first question. The second one is the fact that our biggest burden on debt is not external debt. It's not money we have borrowed out there. It's money we have borrowed locally.
Oh my goodness. So I think, Dr. Rugo, I think that's one of the, an issue that I think Kenyans need to grapple with.
Actually, Gigi, if I was allowed to make a suggestion, give us a session, we come and discuss public debt.
Because it's bigger. It's bigger than what we can cover.
He has only, because we have said we want to explain to our viewers and our brothers and sisters who are watching. There is also, he has talked about the accountability bit, looking at the quantum of what we have. I look at even debt from a bigger perspective. Why do we get into debt in the first place? You're looking at our development agenda, you're looking at our industrialization agenda, and you're looking at the whole issue of our trade. Because why do you get into debt? You get into debt because when you look at your expenses vis-a-vis what your incomes, there are shortfalls. And the benefit that the government has is that the government has two opportunities. The only institution that has the power of either, hey, we either tax or we borrow.
Yes.
And then also looking at the tools that we borrow. I've just given the trade, development, industrialization agenda. If you look at our industrialization sector, it stagnated for a long time at 10% to GDP for almost over a decade.
Yeah.
Currently, our industrialization contribution to GDP has come to 7.8% of GDP.
It's declining.
It's declining
in terms of its contribution.
And not contribution to GDP, and there are reasons, policy-related, that has led to this decline.
Yes.
That has a direct impact on public debt. Then you look at our trade. What are we selling? What are we producing? That directly impacts on our balance of payments.
Okay.
That's another discussion. And then finally, the developmental agenda of a country. Are we progressing based on the policy? As in, you see, the way you say, I was living in a servant's quarter, then I moved to a one-bedroom. You know, that natural progression. When you look at, you are able to plot the same for a country when we look at our development agenda. That is the other dimension on debt. Allow me to just say one final thing about debt.
Yes.
The type of debts that we have borrowed. If you look at what Dr. Rugo has pointed out, he's talked about the domestic debt and foreign debt. There is also another issue. When we shifted from the traditional multilateral and our bilateral partners, and we went to the so-called Eurobonds. And the challenge with Eurobonds, Pastor Gigi, I don't know, let me use that title, is, for example, we borrow in foreign currencies. So when the U.S. interest rates started to rise, what happened? Immediately, we are hit on foreign exchange. So if you borrowed, like the first Eurobond, we went for $200 billion US dollars, right? If you remember that issue. Immediately, when the interest rates in the U.S. started rising, what happened? We were hit on our on the payments that you were making, because you are now paying based subject on volatilities.
Yes.
Volatilities. And remember, it's not volatilities. It's not you're out of the World Bank. You're out of China. You are now in the stock exchange. So, as in, it is as to why it was not talked about. It's another question.
Yeah.
But it's a conversation you must have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, as you follow this conversation, we have a few minutes remaining as we talk about the state of the nation, the economic agenda of the new administration. Clearly, these guys are starting on a very, very, very tough footing, and it's going to be a very, very tough walk to freedom. So to speak, to borrow the words of Nelson Mandela, a long walk to freedom. So we are saying.
Are you saying we're about to conclude?
Yeah. We have about 10 minutes.
We have barely started.
We have about 10 minutes.
But allow us to speak about healthcare.
Yes.
Because I think it is important for us to acknowledge, and here I want to bring in the place of our governance structure.
Yes.
I think whatever model, whatever structure, whatever intentions and ambitions that the current administration has, it has to factor in the fact that we are a devolved country.
Yes.
And devolution is not just, it's not a desire, it's a provision, it is a requirement. And therefore, a lot of the things that we want to achieve in healthcare, in housing, in agriculture, a good number of them are functions of the county governments. But let me zero in on healthcare. Because the thing with healthcare is that first, we need a functional system of healthcare. And a system that is not dependent on the goodwill of a good governor.
Okay.
Or the goodwill of a good boss as a cabinet secretary for Ministry of Health.
Okay.
A system that is established on the norms and standards and performance standards within the healthcare system.
Okay.
Two, the appreciation that because we are devolved, that certain roles need to be played at the role where they are most practically in.
Yes.
You know? And therefore, then the resources. For instance, when the money that is distributed to county government, 17% of it is informed by by the health parameters.
Okay.
You know, in the new formula. You know, but how many of the counties actually follow the same parameters when they come to allocating resources for healthcare?
Okay.
You know, that's a big. It's a big challenge. We've had different interventions that have almost clashed each other. A good example is, you know, the management equipment scheme, which basically was to make sure that we have dialysis equipment, we have all this equipment. What I'm pushing for, and what I think this administration needs to do, is basically, first of all, even have a health conference where we can be able to discuss, you know, who is doing what. In that space, and then ensure that resources, and this is where the president committed, and I hope that will happen, that the actual resources that need to go to Baringo County, that need to go to Turkana County, follow the functions that have been transferred.
Okay.
But as we do that, I think we have a big responsibility to make sure that every institution provides the services it's supposed to be providing for. Because the challenge we are having is that healthcare, you know, a lot of families are just one disease away, or one family member away from poverty.
Yes.
You know, just one disease, one family member, I get sick, and my family basically sinks into poverty, because then if I'm the breadwinner, I'm not able to engage.
Particularly terminal ones.
Yes.
Yet, right now, we have a lot of the infrastructure in terms of physical infrastructure in place.
Yes.
In fact, in some counties, we have an excess of facilities. The next level then is to equip them, is to make sure that doctors and nurses and the necessary you know, people are there in place. And that is the only way we will be able, and then of course, to make sure that NHIF, even as we move it, the president talked about moving it to a social health insurance fund, which basically means, you know, providing, you know, according to need, as I read it, is functional, because it spends about 70 billion every year,
Okay.
in terms of expenditure, and therefore I'm pushing for the whole thing around accountability, which, as I said at the very beginning, I feel like it's not quite, you know, a very top agenda.
Okay.
And yet that is where I think things are stuck.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gentlemen, I really believe that as we look at the agendas that have been set by this administration, I think clearly we can say that there is still so much work that needs to be done.
Correct.
So, and because we must summarize this conversation, somehow we've run out of time. I'm actually going to ask you, each of you, Vincent, in terms of the many things that needs to be done, the one thing that you think this administration, from an economic point of view, it must not lose focus, okay? So, among the many things, if it is revenue mobilization, accountability, like Dr. Rugo has talked about. So, what do you think that if this government got right, somehow we can pull out of the current economic quagmire? So we start with you.
I think one, let's have an efficient public service.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have an efficient public service at the national and at the county level. And an efficient public service that addresses what you call, this requires explanation, but it addresses what you call, it's called transaction governance capacity.
Okay.
What basically it means is that get as many people seeing that by being in and supporting government, it is going to benefit me more than if I'm outside government. That is a summary of an efficient, citizen-centric government. I think for me that is important. Number two is let us support devolution to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me, if the president does that, that will be very important. And then thirdly is the whole issue around productive citizenry.
Okay.
We have young people. Our population is that for every 10 Kenyans walking down the street, 7 of them are below the age of 35.
Okay.
And with an unemployment nearing 40%, where 5 of the 7 don't have jobs, so you basically are having a lot of productive, energetic young people who are not directly contributing to your economy. So what do? You do it what you call, what the Asian tigers did. It's called, you need to invest so that we can reap what you call a demographic dividend.
Absolutely.
Get these young people gainfully engaged in the economy so that then we mobilize savings and then we position our energies positively instead of them going into gambling
and all the other vices. Yeah. So
I think if we do those three, if you know the president, please tell them to do those things. And if they need help, I have not changed my number.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me,
Ruto,
I'll
yes.
be very brief.
Yes.
I think if we don't get the accountability framework right, I think we'll be back to the same problem. And this is what I mean. It must never be anymore that corruption is fashionable.
Yes.
That having unexplained wealth is actually fashionable.
Yes.
We need to show people that you actually can put your hands to work, and in the language of the government of the day, that your hustle actually matters.
Okay.
You know, that if I go to work, I can actually get promoted by virtue of me putting in my best foot forward. If I open my business, I actually can reap my profits and be able to invest in the economy. And that means that rule of law has to run, you know. People who have stolen public resources need to go to jail. You know, it's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
The law must work, because if it does not work, you know, we will put in so much money, but it will all get lost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got to bring this to a close. I just want to read one final comment. Dorcas Grateful Kathimba says, deep conversation, we need more of this. Indeed, we cannot finish this conversation, but we got to close it there. Thank you all so very much for staying tuned in. This video, of course, is available. You can always review it. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Godfrey Gichuki. This is the GG Report Special Edition. God bless you. Have a good night. We'll see you another day. Bye for now.